Good evening, everybody. We are back with another Phins forecast show. Tonight, we are going to be going through a mock draft. Anthony and I are going to be making picks for all the odd number teams, and Josh and Taylor are going to be making all the picks for all the even number teams.
Let's go.
So it's going to be a mock draft where we get to put on our GM hats and get to see inside the war room a little bit. So this should be a lot of fun. So it's going to be a great show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back right after this. Good evening, everybody. We are back with another Phins forecast show. You know, I have to say with that intro, I love they included the Jason Sanders touchdown during the game.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I absolutely love that touchdown. How we doing tonight, guys? I'm gonna go through. Anthony, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. Draft season is coming. It's coming so dang fast, which means baby season is coming fast for me. So it's all just moving too fast.
Yeah. It's you're gonna be in it soon, Anthony.
Oh man, I sure am. There's no turning back now, boys.
Yeah. We're all super happy for you, and I know there's some trepidation, but there's also a lot of excitement there with you and your wife. So it's gonna be awesome.
She's done already. She's like, get me out of here. Let's get this over with.
Get this demon out of me.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We still got like 3-4 weeks left, something like that. She's just like, no, I'm done now.
All right. Well, Taylor, how you doing tonight, man?
It's been a tough week, but you know what, man? I'm excited to get into our show here today. We're not going to just do mock drafts until the draft, but this is a pretty fun little spin on it from what we did last week.
Yeah, for sure.
It absolutely is. And, like I said, it's going to be Anthony and I making picks for the odd number teams. Josh and you, Taylor, are going to be making picks for the even number teams. Anthony, fair warning, there's no hill I'm not willing to die on. So, you're in for it tonight. Josh, how you doing tonight, man?
Tonight has been an interesting night. We had my wife and I had a fist fight with one of our 2 new feline barn cats, and the feline won in a landslide, right? Yeah. In a landslide, like total knockout for both of us. We have cuts, we have bites, we have punctures. But you know what? I'm here. This is going to take my mind off of my throbbing left forearm, and I'm excited to, get to play War Room GM with Taylor on the teams that we have, and see if we can't drum up some fun, hopefully realistic-ish trades, right? Just for some fun, right? Some draft day excitement, and see how this goes, man. Really excited.
Yeah. Yes, this is going to be a lot of fun. So we're using a different mock draft simulator this time than we used last time. Hopefully with less ads, because the ads on that last one were brutal. I clicked out of ads once every 15 seconds. It felt like. All right, so we're gonna get into this right now, guys. We have all the teams selected. We're in. Yeah, I prefer light mode or dark.
Dark, God, dark. Please, dark.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm more of a fan of dark mode myself. And we're going to continue to the draft.
Oh, and if we didn't say it, we're just doing the first round. We're not doing a full 7 round.
Yes, we are.
All right, so this section right here, Keith, is where we could, if there are any phones that want to ring for pre-draft trades, which I do have one. Okay. Taylor, you and I can discuss it, quote unquote, behind the scenes, live on show. Keith, Anthony, just plug your ears, and then we can facilitate them here before we click the green button. Start draft. Taylor, here's what I'm thinking. Right, we represent the Lollipop Guild. No, I'm kidding. We represent the Broncos, and their need for wide receiver is big. I would think, right? They have a very good young quarterback who I'm a huge fan of in Nix. And they have they have a decent offensive line. They have a really good, no-name type defense. How would you feel about giving the Miami Dolphins a call for Tyreek Hill? Right. And I would like to think, maybe we can get Hill in their fourth this year, which is 116, I believe. And we give them our first round pick. So it's Hill in a fourth to us, Denver, and we ship out our first round pick. That's it. Just a first.
I don't hate that. I don't know. Now we have to end up calling the Dolphins over here, our two colleagues down below. But I don't hate that from a Broncos perspective. It's just about.
You mean from our perspective?
Yeah, from our perspective as the Broncos front office. It's just about getting enough in return, because this is kind of tough because we're Dolphin fans. At the same time, not sure Tyreek is worth a first alone. So it would have to be something else we get, possibly a third or something.
Well, don't forget, right? He's got a $28 million cap hit the Broncos would need to accommodate, right? We, the Broncos, would need to accommodate. And then we probably have to give him a massive contract extension.
Yeah.
Right.
So that makes it a little tough as well. But your overall proposal makes a lot of sense. Denver needs immediate wide receiver help. So
what do you think if we you want to ring up the folks over at the Dolphins and see what
let's do it. I love how this is how we're starting out the show. Let's try to get a trade.
All right, so ring, Mother Fletcher. Do the Dolphins answer?
Hello.
Yeah,
this is Chris Greer in the line.
Okay, let's hang up and try again. No, I'm kidding. So that's we can stop with the shenanigans. That's the proposed trade, fellas. Right. Yeah. So us, the Broncos, would be calling you guys the Miami Dolphins, who pick at 13, and we would be asking for Hill, and we would say, we'll take Hill and your guys' fourth round pick for our first round pick. Done deal. What do you guys want to counter? Do you guys want to accept? Do you guys want to decline?
All right, Keith. So they're picking at 20.
Yeah.
So we pick up the 20th pick in the first round. We give up our fourth, which I'm not too fussed about. But we do give up our first wide receiver, which just creates another hole in our roster. I don't
just
feel.
To clarify, I'd like a third instead of a fourth, but.
Well, your GM called us instead of a fourth. So
we have GMs.
We have two fourths. We have two fourths. We only have 1/3. So I wouldn't give up our third.
We would want your higher of the fourths is what we're asking for originally. Now you can counter with whatever you want. You don't have to accept it at all. Or you can say, nope, we're good. Thank you. Or you can counter. I mean, whatever.
So, Anthony, if this is the trade as proposed, I would accept it. I think Tyreek Hill has 1 foot out the door anyway, and this is his last season in Miami anyway.
I would agree. I think we'd be lucky to get a trade offer like this, to be honest.
I do too.
So I would definitely accept this trade. Hopefully there's not a lot of Broncos fans of this podcast, though, because then they're going to lose their first round pick.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's another question. Do we want to? And I'm sorry to let's hit reverse real quick, right? Let's Doc Brown this, but
maybe we could just talk trades in hypothetical fashion,
right? And then that way, a team that maybe if a Broncos fan is here, they're not listening for no reason, right? So it's completely up to you guys, right? If we want to just pick for the teams, that's fine. I didn't even think about that aspect of it.
I would say just pick for the teams and we talk trade hypothetical. Okay. I would say the Dolphins would accept that trade.
Yeah. Okay. Now, instead of Denver, okay, so let's just I think that's a win for the show and for the Dolphins. But let's say the Hill call never came. What if the Cowboys, for example? This is a spicy one that I'm a big fan of. I only had 2, so I'll be done after this. I promise. The Cowboys called Miami and say, we will give you. The hell, I gotta find it. We will give you. I wrote this down. The Cowboys 2025 first round pick, the Cowboys 3rd round pick, and Brandon Cooks for Jalen Waddle.
The Cooks thing does nothing.
Yeah,
for me.
Cooks isn't on that team, by the way.
Huh?
Cooks went back to the Saints, so you would have to probably throw another pick in there.
So I'm going to have to
Never
reject
mind.
that trade offer,
Yeah.
Josh.
Well, there you go. All right. Whoops. All right. Anyways, we can start the draft. Sorry for.
All right. So I'm going to hit start the draft right now. That's going to put Anthony Knight on the clock. Yeah. So we're on the clock. So Anthony, I think this is probably the easiest pick we're going to make all night. Personally, I think Cam Ward's the pick here. The Titans need a quarterback. This feels like it's always been the pick. It's always going to be the pick. Cam Ward.
Yeah, it's funny too because it's an unfortunate situation for the Titans because they have needs at wide receiver, Travis Hunter, and edge, Abdul Carter. But then the quarterback position just trumps everything. I don't think Cam Ward's better than those two, but I do think unless you have a quarterback, you're not going anywhere. Obviously, Will Levis just didn't work out, right? So I think they reset here and they take Cam Ward. Or we take Cam Ward.
So with the first pick in the NFL draft, Tennessee Titans select Cam Ward, quarterback, out of the U.
Boo! No, I'm kidding.
All right, so now the Browns are on the clock. That's Josh and Taylor.
Yes. Taylor, you want to kick off the conversation in the war room?
Okay, so you and I, this was the only pick I think we actually talked about before.
Yes. Yep.
And we actually deferred on this because I think there are two players that, well, there's really three because the quarterback here, if you do think it's that dire and Shedeur is good enough to go in the first round, I think you do take him here. Mm-hmm. So we could have the Shedeur conversation right now, and then we could talk about the very Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, large.
For me, I think the quarterback position for the Browns is, honestly, probably their biggest need, right? I mean, it just, do we think, us being the Browns, right? Do we think that Shedeur Sanders can, is that person, right? Because when you're drafting this high, you want a true, genuine franchise type or you're hopeful that you get a franchise type player, right? And if you look at Shedeur, right, this is me as the Brown. This is not me as Josh, a Miami Dolphins fan. I am not a fan. I'm going to put it in an asterisk here, caveat of being the GM of the Browns.
This is all what we would do, by
right?
The way. This is not predictive,
right? So, as the Browns, you look, I'm looking at Shedeur Sanders' stats, right? So he was. What did he have? 4,100 and something yards, 37 touchdowns. He can scramble, decent pocket awareness. So you can see the tools. I don't think he's a ready product. I don't think he's capable of leading a team right now, but that doesn't mean that he can't. But then you compare that to what I think is their second biggest need at edge. Abdul Carter, in my opinion, is a 10-year type edge producer in this draft. He is, in my opinion, I have him as my top player in this draft on my top 100 big board. So do you take the need with a slightly lesser player, or do you take the best player in the draft, from my opinion, at least, in Abdul Carter? And that's, for me, those are the choices for the Browns. I love Travis Hunter, but I just don't think you can justify a toolsy player who's a wide receiver / cornerback who's probably going to play cornerback in the league more so than wide receiver when you have a quarterback need and an edge need. That's just my take.
Yeah. So I agree with you to an extent about the Shedeur Sanders thing. Now, since last week, I went through a few players, especially at the top of the first round, see if my opinion has changed. Shedeur Sanders, it kind of has. He went from being that fringe first-round pick to somebody I do think is a first-round talent. I really do. I like a lot of what he can do. I like the accuracy. I like the decision-making. He really reminds me of, and this is going to sound a bit simplistic, but like, hey, do you like the way Tua Tagovailoa plays? Okay. Would you like to see that, but right-handed?
Yeah, and faster.
He's faster, but also he's not going to be able to do a lot of the things that he has done in college at the NFL level with his mobility. So he'll be that Brock Purdy kind of mobility.
You're right.
But even saying all those good things, he's not a perfect prospect, and this
Right.
team is not very good.
No.
And when I think you look at Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, these are two blue chip prospects that I just cannot pass up.
Yeah, I mean, imagine Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett. I mean, together on a
Yeah.
like, excuse me, that's a cheat code.
But
you know what
see,
I mean?
that's the thing. That's going to be my argument for you here. Why would you? Because we extended Myles Garrett
Mhm.
earlier this offseason. Somehow we, I guess, got him Stockholm syndromed, and he decided to stay here. So
That's funny.
would you rather get another edge rusher? And I don't want to say be redundant, but Myles Garrett's already going to make the other edge rusher better.
Right, but I don't think you're
Regardless.
being redundant. I think you're strengthening an already strong
Yeah.
position on your team, and you're basically turning what is a top a defensive line with the top edge rusher, in my opinion, in the
Even
league.
better. Yeah.
You're turning it into the best edge group in the league, hands down, with this pick. You know what I mean? That's just my take.
The quick argument I'll make, because I'm 100% willing to concede because I love both of these players.
Yeah, and I think we need to.
Travis Hunter, I think you could plug him in at wide receiver,
Mhm.
be perfectly fine. I know they do have some corners over there in Cleveland, but I do think he'll end up playing both positions. I really do, especially the fact that there's more huddling in the NFL as well. He probably won't have as many snaps at both, but he'll end up, I think, playing both. So I don't think that's necessarily an issue.
All right,
But
so
I agree.
who are we
Abdul
taking?
Carter.
Abdul Carter? All right, Abdul
All
Carter.
right. So with the second pick in the NFL draft, Cleveland Browns select Abdul Carter,
Bum, bum, bum,
edge rusher.
dum, dum, dum.
out of Penn State. All right, so now the Giants are on the clock for us, Anthony. And for me, this is an interesting team to draft for. They brought in, this is another place where Shedeur Sanders could conceivably go. They brought in Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson to play quarterback for them this offseason. That doesn't take them out of the Shedeur Sanders sweepstakes, though, in my opinion.
I would tend to agree. I'm actually I think, as the New York Giants, we're quite shocked that the Browns passed on quarterback, and we're probably jumping up and down in the war room right now.
Yeah.
Because, we need a quarterback. We had a top 10 pick last year. We didn't pick. We went with Daniel Jones. That was, for all intents and purposes, a disaster. So now here we are in the top 10 again. I think we have to take the quarterback, despite having a litany of needs on this team. Pretty much every position on the roster needs talent. And Travis Hunter is difficult to pass on because he could potentially fill two gaps there in some capacity. I do think that I would lean towards taking Shedeur and shoring up the quarterback position, or at least trying to shore up the quarterback position.
Yeah, I think that's actually the pick here, Anthony. And I've gone on record in saying that I wouldn't draft Shedeur Sanders. In the 7th round, I wouldn't draft Shedeur Sanders. I don't like him as a person or as a prospect. That's just me. Now, I do understand where Taylor was coming from, where there are parallels to be drawn between his game and Tua's game. I'm not knocking Shedeur Sanders for what he does on the field. It's more so between the years. I'm not a fan of him between the years. That being said, there is going to be a team that falls in love with him. He is going in the first round. In our first round mock a few weeks ago, he fell out of the first round, which was honestly criminal on all of our parts.
Yes, it was.
Well, something else to think about is that we have the quarterback whisperer Brian Daboll as our head coach. He turned Josh Allen around, so potentially whatever holes are in the Shedeur Sanders game, we're hoping that he can patch those up.
Yeah, and you know what? He's a Sanders, so the bright lights of New York are not going to be too big for him. I think this is the pick. So I think with the 3rd pick in the NFL draft, the New York Giants are going to select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado.
Heck yeah.
Sweet deal.
I'm going to be honest with you, fellas. I know we, outside of this draft, right? We're all Dolphins fans, and I think we all are not big fans of Shedeur, but I think this is pretty damn realistic. I could really genuinely see these kind of conversations happening, and these are the players that kind of go,
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Shout out in the chat here, Hammer.
Oh,
Thanks
hey.
for catching us live, dude. I do not personally have a Twitter handle. I don't know about you guys, but we can throw them in the chat for you for whoever does.
I do not either. Well, I mean, I think I might, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'd have to find mine too. But thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. We are here every Wednesday.
Yeah, and Hammer, if you want to reach out to us for whatever reason, just to say hi or maybe have a conversation, you're more than welcome to comment on any of our videos or reach out to us on Facebook, which you can see the link or our Facebook down at the bottom of the screen. Love to chat.
All right, so on the clock now is the hated New England Patriots, Josh and Taylor.
Yeah. So, all right, Taylor, I'm going to start with this. I'm thinking punter out of San Jose State. What are your thoughts?
You know what?
I hear he has a hell of a leg.
Just because I would like not to get theoretically fired here.
No, I know. Okay.
Over.
All bullshit aside, right? So as the Patriots, right, I think you and I pretty much align on the top, the three players that are in discussion here, right? And I think Travis Hunter is in the conversation. Is Will Campbell and Armand Membu, right?
Yeah.
They need help everywhere, right? Let's just be honest. Outside of quarterback, who I'm actually a big fan of Drake May. I think that Travis Hunter brings that star potential, kind of like Sauce Gardner did a couple of years ago when he came out. He brings that swagger. He's the second best player in this draft, in my opinion, right? And I think with his versatility, it would allow the Patriots to do some really, really cool stuff, right? However, you have Drake May, who I think has the chance of being a top 12 quarterback in this league if he reaches his potential, right? And that's not a slight on him. That's a pretty damn good achievement, in my opinion. You have to protect him. Your offensive line is worse than hot garbage, right? And so I think for me, at least, and I'll let you take the floor or take the war room, take the mic. I think the conversation really is between Will Campbell and Armand Membu.
I disagree heavily here. I think they run to the podium. I think they sprint, they fall on their face because they're trying to get Travis Hunter here. I get they have
convince
Christian
me.
Gonzalez.
Convince me.
I get they have Christian Gonzalez.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at, for one, by the way, if Travis Hunter was gone, I agree 100%. Will Campbell, Membu, I might make the case for Genty. But right now, the way it fell, man, they need a wide receiver so badly. I know they also need an offensive lineman, but even with getting they got Diggs, right? Stephon Diggs? I think they did.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
And that doesn't
even
mean
with Stephon Diggs there, I don't think it's the world-changing addition to the roster.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what you get with Hunter is you get this physical wide receiver who's going to be able to get contested catches. He's going to be able to get there deep. He's going to be able to really be the number one guy.
Let me ask you a question about him. Do you think he's a better wide receiver or a better cornerback? And telling me he's great at both is not an answer, right?
If I had to choose a position for him to play, it'd be a wide receiver.
Really? Because I think he's a much better cornerback. So that's where my hesitation was. If you genuinely believe that
it's close. It is close.
Okay,
I'm not trying to sit on the fence.
I'm on board with that. If you feel really genuinely strongly, because I really don't. I like all three players. I think building the offensive line to give your quarterback time to actually play and maybe not get murdered is kind of the way to go here. But I'm totally okay with running the ticket up for Travis Hunter if you are.
Yeah. Plus, I think we could. I know we're not doing other rounds, but the Patriots could go in the second and third round.
They very well could. Yep.
All
okay.
right, so
Travis Hunter.
We have a consensus with the fourth pick in the NFL draft. The New England Patriots draft Travis Hunter, wide receiver cornerback out of Colorado. Two players from Colorado going in the top 5. I mean,
I never thought I'd see the day.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So it's on us, Anthony. Now the Jaguars are an interesting team to draft for. They already have their franchise quarterback, I put that in air quotes, in Trevor Lawrence. They need offensive line help. They need defensive line help. Where do you see them going here? Where do you think they should go here, Anthony?
Yeah, great question. The 3 players I actually had pinned for this position were Mason Graham and Armand Membo, and then Jalen Walker there at outside linebacker from Georgia. I think this is another team, of course, they're picking in the top 5. They have a ton of needs, right? I think you can't go wrong with any of these guys, but personally, I would lean towards Mason Graham here, the interior defensive lineman. I think we saw in free agency that teams are really starting, like the defensive tackle free agency was the wildest free agency I feel like I've ever seen. They all got paid. They all got picked up. There's literally, you can go look at the free agency list. There's no defensive tackles left, right? It's crazy. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Jaguars went and grabbed a stud defensive tackle out of Michigan, no less. I don't know. That's where the rumors were pointing. That's where my mind's pointing. I know they need offensive line help desperately as well. So where do you think they should go here?
I don't think there's actually much to talk about here because I agree. I think Mason Graham's the pick here. Jaguars defense last year was an absolute dumpster fire. You could do whatever you wanted against them last year, whether it be running the ball or throwing the ball against them. Bringing in a stalwart defensive tackle, I'm not going to say it's going to solve all their issues, but it's certainly going to, be a step in the right direction. So I think Mason Graham's the pick here, Anthony. I agree completely.
I do think that, it's going to be a hard, it's not going to be a hard conversation on draft day because they're all doing their work ahead of time. But let's imagine like Armand Membo and even Will Campbell have got to be big parts of that conversation as well. Because they have to keep Trevor Lawrence alive.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So Hammer comes in. You don't think they'll go edge? I would say they would go edge if Abdul Carter was available to them, but I have Mason Graham personally rated a little higher than Jalen Walker. I don't know how you feel about it, Anthony.
I think Jalen Walker is just climbing fast in terms of just what the media is saying about edge rushers at this point compared to right after the season when Jalen Walker wasn't really mentioned in the top 10 or even the first round for that matter. And now he's the top 10 everywhere I look. So these guys talk to NFL teams on a regular basis. So if there's smoke, there's fire. I think Jalen Walker is absolutely on the table for this pick as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't go edge for the Jaguars because they do have the other Josh Hines Allen over there. They have Trayvon Walker, a guy who they drafted first overall a few years back. Edge really isn't a weakness for them as far as I'm concerned, but defensive tackle is. So I think, Anthony, if you're good with it, we're going to go with Mason Graham here.
I agree. I think this is a tough call for your Jaguars front office, but yeah, I would go with Mason Graham.
Look, let's be honest. They're picking between like really good options here. So
they are.
Yeah, it's like we're splitting hairs, right? As you're excited. At least I'm not a Jacksonville Jaguars fan who I can imagine being excited as a Jacksonville Jaguars fan in any case. But the fact that you're choosing between Jalen Walker, Will Johnson, Mason Graham, like those are phenomenal cornerstones for your team.
Absolutely.
The splitting hairs are important in these conversations.
Yeah, of course.
Only like half of the top 10 picks work out each year. So you don't want to get one of those 5 who don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Just want to add too, Mason Graham, there was a lot of talk, especially on this podcast to hear about Mason Graham being like 290 at the combine. I do want to say at the pro day, I believe he weighed in at 306. So Josh, I think you were the one who was like, hey, he'll gain that weight back. I get what you're saying, and that's not good that he's at 290, but he'll get it back. It seems like he's getting back.
His playing weight was like 318 in college, I think, or something like that, and that's what he'll play it.
I think 310 is like his sweet spot, and I think Josh is right. He'll get back to that. So with the 5th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Mason Graham, defensive tackle.
He's one of my favorite players in this draft.
Taylor's NFL comp there is Christian Wilkins for Mason Graham, and I got to say that, you'd be elated to take a Christian Wilkins there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the Raiders are now on the clock. Josh, Taylor.
Bring out the extinguishers. We're talking about a dumpster fire, ladies and gentlemen.
No, we have the dumpster fire in the next pick.
Well, it's one after the other. We are in the top of the draft after all. So,
Josh,
all right,
where do you want it? Because I'm not saying the Raiders are like. I know you guys said dumpster fire. There are good pieces on this team.
Yeah, of course.
But man, you got to start this because they can go in so many different ways.
Well, for me, honestly, it's I think running back is a key need, and the conversation can be had. Well, does it make sense? Right? Is this too high for a running back? How do you really feel about Genti? Do you believe he is the reincarnation of, I don't know, LaDainian Tomlinson or whatever. And if that's the case, it makes total sense to take a player of that caliber, which I personally think he is a very, very, very good running back. The problem is they don't really have a great offensive line. So, the argument can be made, okay, you lock him up for 5 years on a rookie deal, and then you fix the offensive line either post-draft with free agents that are left, or you play with what you have, you bolster it with what you can get, and then you fix it next season, right? So Ashton Jeanty will then have a year in the system, hopefully the same coaches. For us, as we're looking at this through the lens of the Raiders, so hopefully we have the same GM, hopefully we have the same coaches and the same scheme. So he's got a year to pack on weight in a true NFL weight room with true NFL coaching. So I get it, right? They also have a need at cornerback. Those are my top two, right, for them, because there isn't a quarterback that I would choose here. I don't think Jackson Dart. I can see him maybe going to the Saints, for example. I don't know. Taylor, maybe you can convince me that Jackson Dart needs to go at 6, right? Maybe.
Unfortunately, I can't. And the reason why is because they traded that third for Geno and because of everything you already outlined.
Yeah.
I do think Jeanty is a very good possibility here. I do think wide receiver is a possibility here. Cornerback, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And Armand Membo is still out there. And I know they got Colton Miller. I know they got DJ Glaze, I think is his name, at right tackle. But you could move Membo inside at guard. You got Jackson Powers Johnson as well at center. Then that way you're looking at what I think is a fantastic offensive line at that point.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's a lot of – that's what I was saying. There's so many different avenues I could see the Raiders going in.
Yeah, I think I talked myself out of Jeanty for them, and I think it's really down. I'm a huge fan of Membu. I think Membu is a like a 5-tool type Major League Baseball player. He can play across any of the positions outside of center and play them very well, and he's a freak athlete. But I also really am enamored with Will Johnson at the cornerback position, right? So I think for me, it's between Membu or Will Johnson. Now, Campbell, you can make a discussion. I think he's probably a better offensive tackle prospect, and based on what I'm reading, not for me per se. But I really do think it's between Membu and Johnson. What do you think?
I agree. Even though I did have Jeanty in our first-round mock draft last week, I think for this exercise, the way it's went so far, in this scenario, I could see the Raiders taking Membu, getting a running back in the second round. It could be somebody like Trevion Henderson if he's still there, Quinton Junkins.
I'm good with Membu because I think that's pretty much, I don't want to say fixes their offensive line, but it puts them in a much favorable position.
All right, so you guys are decided? What's that, Anthony?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, Keith. I was wondering if there's any interest in a wide receiver there for the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, Matthew Golden or Tet McMillan, sure, but I just think it's too high for them, right? I mean, I think there's much better quality on the board still. In Will Johnson, Membu, Campbell, Jeanty, even at that point, if you're going to take a skill position, take Jeanty, right? Because I think running back is a higher need than wide receiver for them. I like Matthew Golden coming out of Texas. I think he's a great spacer. He's fast. He's that X type receiver. Tet McMillan is that tall kind of, and I'm not comparing these two, but that, the Mike Evans type receiver, that possession receiver where he's not going to blow you away with his speed, but he's fast enough to create enough separation to use his athleticism and his height to get those 50-50s. I just think, and this is my own bias showing here. Like Keith, I like the trenches, right? And I think you build through the trenches first. You see what the Dolphins are. We are all Dolphins fans. This is a Dolphins podcast. We're just having some draft fun. We see what it's like when you put Ferraris on the outside and you do nothing for the trenches, right? It's great when it works until teams catch on. And I think, taking somebody like Campbell or Membu or even Will Johnson at cornerback really solidifies you at a key position on the team for years to come. Because if you draft Membu or Campbell, both of them I can see being 10+ year players, in my opinion.
Now, Hamber, to your question right here with quarterback, I think Taylor and Josh are having a much different discussion if Shedeur Sanders is on the board.
Oh, if he's on the board, I'm running to the podium. If I'm
even with Geno, and Geno's a good quarterback, by the way. But still, Geno's not I would say, young quarterback. And plus, at that point, you get Shedeur Sanders in the room with Tom Brady, who is the minority owner over there. There's a lot to like about that fit.
And all it takes is one guy to fall in love with Jackson Dart. I just don't think – I think this is too high for him. So
yeah. I can't tell you on draft. Now, we're not drafting for them, I don't think. I'm trying to do math here really quick. The Saints are apparently enamored with Dart. And I've seen quite a lot of mock drafts. So who knows? He might be going in the top 10, maybe not. Who the heck knows? But anyways, we are not talking about that. We're talking about the Raiders.
With the 6th pick in the 2025 NFL draft, the Las Vegas Raiders – I almost said Oakland. The Las Vegas Raiders select Armand Membu, offensive tackle, probably more of a guard, out of Missouri. All right, so now on the clock is the New York Football Jets. Anthony, I think we're in consensus here. We're going that punter out of San Diego State that Josh mentioned, right?
Oh yeah, put him on the board. There we go.
Yeah,
done.
Trading the 7th overall pick for a bag of peanuts to the Dolphins. Right?
Is there actually a punter who plays at San Diego State coming out in the draft? Because we're doing a lot of buzz for him right now. Should be a first-round pick. Patriots and Jets.
Tamer says it's a good exercise. I think what you guys are doing is a lot better than a mock draft machine who doesn't know it. Yeah, I agree. I think this is and it's also a heck of a lot of fun, Hammer. I don't know how much. I hope it's a lot of fun for you guys to listen to, but we are having a blast right here.
I mean, genuinely, this might be one of my favorite shows so far the offseason. I'm having such a good time. And prepping for the show was so much fun.
Yeah. All right. So, Anthony, what do you think here, man? A lot of different directions we can go in.
I'm super bummed that Armin Membo gets taken right there at 6. You're obviously thinking to yourself, like, they need skill position players. Hopefully they take one. You're all but have the Membo card filled out and ready to hand in already, and then boom, that happens, and you're like, God dang it! And we gotta recover here. I gotta say, I do think Tyler Warren is more realistic of a selection here than anybody is talking about. I think the Jets need weapons, and what better weapon at the top of the draft here than Tyler Warren? I mean, you're picking number 7. Yes, you could take a guy like Will Campbell, or maybe even take a bit of a project. I know that, Taylor has talked about Jalen Walker perhaps being a bit of a project because he's played multiple different positions. Or you take the best tight end prospect we've seen that many people compared to Rob Gronkowski and Tyler Warren. I think they'd have to have some serious conversations there about that.
Yeah, I think Tyler Warren is definitely in play here. That they lost. I will say this: cornerback is also a need for them. They lost DJ Reed in free agency.
Yep.
And they still have Sauce Gardner, but I think Sauce Gardner has regressed a little bit. He's not the player he was 2 years ago. He's not the player that everybody expected him to be. So I think when it comes to the Jets, Jalen Walker could be in play. I don't think Ashton Genty's in play. I think offensive tackle isn't as big of a need for them after drafting Olu Fashanu in the first round last year. So I think they're going to pass on tackle. I think for me, it's between Jalen Walker, Tyler Warren, and Will Johnson. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I see Will Campbell sliding into guard there. I think, his arm length has been a real hot topic of conversation across, what the heck was that event? We just had the combine and then, the owners meetings and stuff like that. So I do think that Will Campbell's certainly an option here. It depends on what they're thinking here for Justin Fields. Justin Fields and Cole Kmet had a really good dynamic in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then he had a good dynamic with Freiermuth last year before Russell Wilson, for whatever reason, took over that job, which made no sense. I think that they'll play it safe and take Campbell here. I personally would take Warren, but I think they take Campbell.
Okay. Well, let's see. I will defer to you on this one. So Will Campbell, Bobby Boucher. There you go. I like it. The 31-year-old linebacker out of South Central Louisiana State University.
And just to clarify again, you guys can definitely take Campbell, but this is also what you would do. So if you want to keep it a little predictive there, completely good. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, I've been sticking to a predictive model here.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're acting as GMs, we should probably act as the Jets might,
Yeah, what fits for their team, which I think Campbell does fit.
I think that's a great pick for them.
All right, so Will Campbell with the 7th pick in the 2025 NFL draft, the New York Football stinking Jets draft. Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU. That puts the Carolina Panthers on the clock for you boys.
Taylor, you're up, buddy. Kick us off.
So here's my conundrum here. Here's my question to you. Who do you like more? Do you like T-Mac or Matthew Golden?
For them?
Yes.
Who are their other wide receivers? Do you know off the top of your head?
Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette.
Okay, so nobody. Got it. I would say, I mean, it's hard because Matthew Golden's that speed guy, and that translates to the NFL, but he's not all that tall. And I don't know. I think I'm leaning more towards Tet for us, the Carolina Panthers, over slightly over Golden, but it's a coin flip. But I don't know. Go ahead. Sorry.
I do have Golden rated higher than T-Mac as of right now, but it
so do
also
I.
is. Yeah. That's just on an overall, what I think about the player. Well, who fits for Carolina? I think that was a great point by you. Somebody for Bryce Young to just throw it up to, let him go get it in that Drake London kind of role.
Yeah.
I do like that fit, man. As much as I like Matthew Golden, he really reminds me. I'm not saying he's going to be as good, but he kind of reminds me a bit of CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah,
in
me
the
too.
Way he plays.
Yeah, I just think he's like a. I don't want to say this because he could turn out to be CeeDee Lamb 2.0, but I think he's the poor man's. He's the Dollar General. Not that there's a problem with Dollar General, but he's the DG CeeDee Lamb, right? And I think for me, when I was looking at this team, or when I was looking at our team as the Carolina Panthers, it was really between if Will Johnson was on the board. I knew
Will Johnson's possible.
I had a gut feeling that Tet would be on the board. We would have our pick at top wide receivers. Will Johnson still being there for us. I don't know. I think Will Johnson is kind of a cornerstone type cornerback, no pun intended. So for me, it's really between Johnson and Tet. And honestly, it's a coin flip. So I'm good. If you feel strongly about one of those players, I'm good drafting either one.
What position group you like more in the second? Wide receiver or corner?
I think wide receiver is much deeper than cornerback, in my opinion. I think cornerback is quasi top heavy, right? So you have Will Johnson, you have Jahdae Barron, you have the guy out of what the hell is his name? He's out of the smaller school.
Revel.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Revel, right? And after that, it kind of dips off, but you have studs. I mean, not studs. Sorry, I'm overplaying my hand. You have very good wide receivers, and even into the third round, that I think you could snag to answer, right? Not wide receivers as good, or at least with a higher ceiling than Matthew Golden or Tet. But I think the cornerback market is much more top heavy than the wide receiver market. Just my take.
Now, I will say, I agree with you. I think Will Johnson's the pick here. I have him very high up on my draft board as well. But between T-Mac and also I was going to throw out, if Mason Graham was still here.
Oh, if Mason Graham was still here, that would have been my pick for sure.
Kenneth Grant as well. That's something that I think is a interesting possibility, but man, that cornerback room needs help.
I mean, are there any edges, Keith? I don't know where it says all. Is that like the position groups?
Yes.
Can you click edge? I just want to see who's there. So Mikael Williams, I mean, Mike Green might be a good option here. I know he's got off the field issues, but that man is, from an athletic standpoint and a on the field standpoint, he is a specimen. Now he seems to have some problems off the field, so might be why he's sliding. Mikael Williams, Shamar. I'm a huge fan of Texas A&M. Shamar Stewart,
Jalen Walker here as well.
Well, they need an edge.
This is a tough team.
Jalen Walker, in my opinion, is a true outside linebacker that can play situational edge, right? That can rush situationally. I just don't. For this team, I think it really comes down to Will Johnson, Tet, or one of the edges, right?
Yeah, I say Will Johnson.
Okay,
I think he's one of the safer picks.
that was my top pick.
All right. So with the 8th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select
Don't say
Will
Tyler
Johnson.
Warren. I thought you were about to click on Tyler Warren. I was like, no.
Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan. All right.
Oh, and guys, just before you pick, just so you know, if you accidentally click on something, it looks like you can undo the pick, which is cool.
Okay. That's pretty sweet. All right. So Anthony, now we're up with the Saints. The Saints, they're a tough team to project. What do you see as needs for them? Because I see needs all across the board for them.
Yeah, I have a lot listed here. Corner, offensive line, wide receiver, defensive line, and quarterback. Looks like the Derek Carr era might be coming to an end after this season.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of holes to fill.
Yeah. Now they started out really well last year. They they blew, who was it? They blew the Cowboys out. They blew another team out, and I think the Panthers in week 1. And then they just went into a free fall. They fired Dennis Allen. Now they have Kellen Moore as their head coach. So I see Ashton Genty up there. I don't know that they go. I don't know if they go with Ashton Genty. I think that Alvin Kamara is still down there. Jalen Walker's a possibility. Tyler Warren, I don't know if they go tight end here. I think if I'm Kellen Moore, I'm building from the trenches. So for me, Calvin Banks would be my pick for the New Orleans Saints, just because I've seen what Kellen Moore can do with elite offensive lines. When Kellen Moore has elite offensive lines, his offense is cooked. You saw that in Dallas. You saw that in Philadelphia. So what do you think about that, Anthony?
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I think Kelvin Banks Jr. is somebody we've talked about on the show an absolute ton. Guy that could potentially play tackle or slide in to guard. So I think that would be an amazing pick. I do think it's worth mentioning that, one guy out there linked Jackson Dart to the Saints here at 9. So now that's been making a buzz around NFL draft circles that maybe the Saints are looking at Jackson Dart here. I think that would be a mistake personally. I don't think, it would be great for the Dolphins. That pushes some players that we could have down, which I know is what Hammer's looking for there.
Yeah.
But I will say this though, I don't mean to interrupt you, but Dart fits this scheme pretty damn well. That's it. Sorry.
Sure, but I would almost say that we try to trade back up into the first. We're going to have a high second round pick. Maybe we can trade up towards the end of the first round, depending on what the Steelers do at 21. 20 maybe too high to trade back to. But I think they're probably better off getting the trenches done first. They have Derek Carr this season, so I don't know that you need to draft your quarterback of the future in a draft where the quarterbacks aren't that good. So I would definitely lean towards the trenches here. And if we're looking at who's available, Kelvin Banks Jr. obviously pops out. The edge rushers here are very raw. Michael Williams, Shamar Stewart, we talked about. Mike Green before has off the field issues. So even Jalen Walker might be good if they want to try him out at edge. Safest bet is Kelvin Banks Jr., but we've taken a lot of offensive linemen in this top 10.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll play out that way, but it seems to be where we keep leaning for these picks.
And again, Hammer, the dream would be for 3 quarterbacks to go in the top 10 here. As Dolphins fans, we would be doing a silent cheer. Well, not a silent cheer, an audible cheer on our live draft show. 3 quarterbacks go in the top 10. We are happy campers. I just don't know that I can go Jackson Dart with the Saints. Like you're saying, he has pinpoint accuracy, like the one time you actually hit the bullseye at the bar. I don't know that I can go Jackson Dart here, man. If I'm the Saints, I'm liking the trenches. Anthony, if you're cool with it, I'm going to go with Calvin Banks Jr. here.
Well, one more thing I just wanted to mention. I did have Tet McMillan here on my list of potentials when I was prepping for the show. I do think that, they brought Brandon Cooks back. They have Chris Olave, who after his rookie season has been somewhat of a disappointment. And then they have Rashid Shaheed, who is just a home run hitter.
Yeah.
So I definitely think if they decide they want to build around their skill position players, I could see this as a potential Tet landing spot. For today, I say we go with Kelvin Banks Jr.
Okay. Kelvin Banks Jr. So with the 9th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, New Orleans Saints select Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle out of Texas. On the clock is the Chicago Bears. Josh and Taylor, take it away.
Well, okay.
Can we sprint to the podium?
Well, yes and no. Let's before we sprint, let's have a conversation because I think both of us like Ashton Genty here, right?
Okay. I thought you were gonna have no Josh Simmons here. So
No, but I would say for them, I don't know. Josh Simmons could be an option. Kenneth Grant is another serious contender in my opinion here. I know they need offensive line. They need to protect their quarterback, right? And I think I did not look at who they signed in free agency across the offensive line. I know they made some moves.
They got the Rams guard last year who got a big deal. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And they got Joe Thuney from the Chiefs.
So, I mean, do you think that this is a position where we need to continue to address the offensive line to give Caleb Williams as much protection as possible? Or an argument could be made, Ashton Genty, who's not known as a blocker, could do that as well. Do you think there's a discussion to be had about an edge here? Is all I'm asking.
I have seen some mocks from some channels I follow put Mike Green here, and I love that fit from on the field perspective.
Me too.
But man, the way this
some teams are going to some team is going to overlook Mike Green's off the field issues and draft a stud.
His draft process too has been stellar, across the board. This guy, the Senior Bowl, the combine process, all that stuff has just been this guy's an athletic freak.
Yeah.
So somebody, like you said, in the first round will end up taking him. And it's possible that somebody takes him high, like the Bears, for example. But Ashton Genty's sitting here. For me, Josh Simmons is an interesting name. I think Kenneth Grant is an interesting name. But
now Josh Simmons for you.
Swift.
Now let's talk about Simmons real quick.
Yeah,
he's listed as a tackle. I think he's a guard. Personally,
okay, I think he's a tackle, but
I think he's a guard, like a nasty guard. A guard that plays angry. They need IOL, right? They need, in my opinion, they need running back. They need tackle. Maybe not tackle. They need interior, and they need edge. Were my kind of big takeaways. So if you want to sprint to get Ashton Genty here, I think that's totally acceptable, right? However, I would say it's not as clean cut as we all want it to be, right? Because Kenneth Grant is there, Shamar Stewart's there, Mike Green is there. So of these players who are still here, who do you genuinely think fits this roster?
I do see the potential of Simmons there. I'm not sure who they do have at left tackle, but right tackle, they got Darnell Wright, so you don't want anybody who would be on that side. Kenneth Grant, I think, would make a lot of sense there as well in the trenches.
Because that would be my name.
Yeah, one hell of a run stuffer and one hell of a high motor. But I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but DeAndre Swift, to me, was so disappointing last year.
He was.
For getting the contract he had. And that the young quarterback needs a running game to succeed.
Yeah. Do you think that there is an issue, though, like a personality issue, right? Because we all know Caleb Williams is, I don't want to use this word, but kind of a prima donna, right? He likes the attention on him. He likes to have the ball in his hands. You draft an Ashton Genty to be your primary option, in my opinion. You know what I mean? So is there a clash there? Is there a conversation? We are pretending we are we are running the Bears organization. Is that a concern?
To me, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, and also from just a pure talent perspective, Genty, I believe, is my number 2 prospect overall. Okay. So getting him at 10, I think.
Yeah. All right. I'm good with it. Yeah. If you're that solid about it, and I couldn't talk you off to Mike Green or to Kenneth Grant, I'm good with it.
All right. So with the 10th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, Chicago Bears select Ashton Genty, running back out of Boise State. So that leaves the 49ers to us. here, Anthony. Lost a lot this offseason. Their cupboard got absolutely raided by every other team in the NFL. Needs all over the place. Just like the Saints. So where do you see them going here?
Yeah, I think they're super pumped that Josh Simmons and Kenneth Grant are still there. I also have heard quite a few rumors that they're interested in Jahdae Barron, which would be an interesting move for a team that needs a lot of help in the trenches, but not every team is going to draft trenches like we have so far. So I think there's definite potential here that, Josh's heart could be broken if the 49ers decide to go that route.
I'm going on a murdering spree if that happens.
Tyler Warren's still here and Kittle's not getting any younger. I don't personally see that as a possibility, but stranger things have happened in the first round of drafts. And then, of course, there's like a glaring highlight of Jalen Walker sitting there at the top. So, they have a ton of options, which I think they're probably pretty pumped about. Any of those guys stick out to you as, a better fit than the others?
Well, I mean, honestly, Ted McMillan kind of stands out to me for the 49ers. Now, hear me out on this one. They lost Deebo Samuel to the Commanders this offseason. You've got their other wide receiver. Ayuk. He's coming off a torn ACL. Their cupboard at the wide receiver room is kind of bare, and they're about to pay their quarterback big boy money. So are you doing him a disservice by not giving him weapons to throw to?
They did spend a first on Pearsall last year as well.
Yeah, they did. That's true. They did. So, it's I would tend to go to the trenches here. I think Mike Green would be a pick that I could see the 49ers making. Just because I think Kyle Shanahan thinks he can control him. Kyle Shanahan likes those athletic freaks like that. I don't have a good feel for where the 49ers are going to go here. I just don't.
I really don't either. I like the two I mentioned at the start. I think Josh Simmons, to Taylor's point, in his big board, top 5 pick if he didn't get that injury late in the season last year. So, do the 49ers say, to heck with it, we're just going to take the talent, and we have confidence in our medical team that they think he's good. He's a top 5 talent. It's funny that Taylor's comp is Laramie Tunsil because it's a very Laramie Tunsil situation. Just a different reason he's falling. I could see them going that route, but I could also very much see them going Kenneth Grant. I think the wide receiver thing is an interesting point because I've heard that Ayuk is on the block as well. So not losing Debo, trading Debo to the Commanders, then potentially trading Ayuk. Then they have Pearsall and rookie X fill in. That could make sense, especially if it's Tet there.
Matthew Golden's still on the board. Like why?
Mm-hmm. Even Jalen Walker, I feel like if he truly is a off-ball linebacker, like Josh alluded to, line Jalen Walker up alongside next to Fred Warner. I mean, that's tempting.
Yeah, there's a number of directions the 49ers can go. Like I said, their cover got absolutely raided this all season. So
their defensive tackles are Kevin Givens and Jordan Elliott. So I'm going to jump on the Kenneth Grant train here.
You know what? You've just convinced me. Kenneth Grant's going to be the pick here. All right. So with the 11th pick in the 2025 NFL draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan. That puts the Cowboys in the clock. They're still crying their eyes out over the Ashton Genty pick. So
they're also crying because they probably wanted Kenneth. I know I wanted Kenneth Grant. Okay, so I think for me, right, this is either a Matthew Golden spot or a can you scroll a little bit down? I forgot he's the guard from Alabama.
Tyler Booker.
Golden will be hilarious.
Or like a Tyler Booker, right? I mean, they need a running back and they need a cornerback. I don't like any of the cornerbacks here. Maybe Barron, right? Maybe Revel, if we wanted to go the cornerback route, or Jahad Campbell. I think as a linebacker next to Parsons would be a nightmare for teams. But where are you leaning?
I'm not really serious about this, but there's something really interesting to me about Jalen Walker here. Because of that, he's
Well, they
not
need a
exactly like
linebacker.
Parsons. Yeah, he's not exactly like Parsons, but just like Parsons coming out was in this, like, oh, do you put him at edge? Do you put him at linebacker? It is a similar conversation with Jalen
Yeah.
Walker.
You know what? Honestly, I'm good with that. He was on my list. He was number 3 on my list of Cowboys
Yeah.
potential draftees. So if you're good with it, I am. I mean, we could have a conversation about one of the wide receivers, one of the top 2 wide receivers that are still there. I mean,
To me, it's either Jalen Walker or a guard, which Tyler Booker is what you said. So
yeah.
it's up to you. I'll let you have final say on this.
All right. So I think Jalen Walker's a better prospect in my opinion. Right.
All right.
Let's Jalen Walker.
So Jalen Walker to the Dallas Cowboys at pick 12. All right, that leaves us, Anthony, and this is the moment we've all been waiting for, right? The Miami Dolphins are on the clock. Number of options we can go with here. Another team. Bunch of needs for the Dolphins.
Really quick, are we allowed to chime in because we're Dolphins fans, or are we sitting back and just watching you guys pick the best prospect?
After we give you who our recommendation is,
Okay.
then you can
Perfect.
chime in. Yeah.
Perfect.
So what I think you said it in the private chat here, Anthony. It's not shaking. This draft is not shaking out well for the Dolphins. The top 3 offensive linemen are off the board here.
I disagree.
So
I think this is a
Membu,
great draft.
Membu, Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks gone.
I have just so many thoughts on this because just the way the draft has fallen, and as the draft process has gone on, and my personal preferences have changed towards. So first thing, Tyler Warren. I put it to you guys in the chat in our text chain earlier. What do the Dolphins do if Tyler Warren falls to us at? We have Jonnu Smith. We don't have a world-beating tight end. He had record-breaking season last year. He was very good, but he's over 30, and he doesn't have the talent of Tyler Warren. Like, I wonder where he is on their board. Just genuinely wonder, like, is he a top 10 pick on their board? Because you got to imagine if a top 10 pick falls to you at 13 and you're playing best player available, that he's in the conversation there.
Yeah. I love Tyler Warren, and I've gone on record in saying that, and I'm softening on whether or not I would take Tyler Warren here. Originally I said no. Originally I said offensive line. But then I listened to Dudley Do Wrong a couple weeks ago, and he came out and said that the Dolphins don't take offensive guards with their first pick. I never actually put 2 and 2 together on that until he said that out loud.
Yep.
And he's right. They don't. So maybe offensive guards out here. Maybe they go with a more premier position. I don't know the tight end is the premier position he was thinking about. But you've got Matthew Golden on the board here, Michael Williams. I don't know if they go edge. I think they're somewhat set at edge. So do they go cornerback? Jahdae Barron. With Will Johnson off the board. Do they go Jahad Campbell? Malachi Starks, who's still on the board. Tyler Booker, we've already said no. Personally, if the board shakes out like this, I might go for Tyler Warren.
Cool. So that's interesting because I think, Taylor brought this up in our first mock draft that we ever did on the channel. Tyler Warren there at 13, and we all kind of were a little thrown back by that. But now, as we're getting closer, it's like it could potentially happen. Then what do we do there? I wouldn't be mad about that pick. I really wouldn't. But my thoughts have changed a little on this pick here. So Josh Simmons and Tyler Booker are both guys I think we would love to have on the team. But to Douglas' point, we don't take guards in the first round if they see Josh Simmons as a guard. If they see him as a tackle, maybe that is the route they go. I think something telling me that this pick for the Miami Dolphins is between Jahdae Barron and Malachi Starks. I think that the back end of our defense is in shambles right now. Our second starting corner is that kid last year that with the cool name who I'm blanking on.
Storm Duck.
Storm Duck. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's our corner 2 right now. I like Storm Duck, but he's not a second corner. Let's slow the train down. And then at safety, we did pick up, a pair of guys who could play. They have played, but Ashton Davis mostly played special teams, and Melifonwu, while he has a ton of talent, is always injured. So when I look at the two positions and I look at the depth, I think corner is a huge cliff after Jahdae Barron. And I know that you guys mentioned the other kid out of East Carolina or whatever.
Revel,
who Taylor actually has ranked above Barron in his rankings,
which is insane.
It's
fine.
So I would love Tyler Warren here if it's the pick, but if I'm literally trying to play Chris Greer, and shout out to that fan months ago who said that if Will Campbell was there at 13, he would be the pick. I don't remember who you were, but seriously, you know this team better than anybody, maybe. I seriously think the pick is going to be Barron or Starks, and I'd probably lean Barron because the corner position just is like a huge drop off of talent after these top two guys.
All right. This is the part where Josh and Taylor chime in.
All right. Yeah. So, Taylor, I'll let you round out the conversation if you don't mind.
Okay.
Having Tyler Warren on the board is a very intriguing option. He's salivating at his potential, right? Jahdae, I think I agree with everything Anthony said. I think the cornerback position currently on this roster is terrifying to me. Outside of Ramsey, I like Cater, who's a slot cornerback. Cool. He has some ups, he has some downs. Last year was a down year. Sure. After those two, who do we have? No one. Not a single person that I feel is a genuine, not even a difference maker at the position, but a genuine player in the NFL, right? I mean, sure, Storm Duck, he's young, he's undrafted. Okay, cool. And the other position that really worries me is safety, right? So I love the Jihad. I was really on Jihad Campbell for a long time. I really pairing him next to in our linebacker room next to Brooks is very similar to the Tyler Warren pick, right? But Barron for me has been the pick. I mocked him to the Dolphins when I was the Phins. I've liked him ever since. I think he's the Swiss Army knife cornerback, right? He can play the X, he can play the slot. You can put him at safety. You can bring him down. He plays everything, right? But he would be our number 2 wide receiver immediately, or cornerback immediately, in my opinion.
Taylor, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, the way this board broke, it's something to where you guys are right talking about the offensive line. It's not something that really fits what the Dolphins do. You look at the holes on the team, and it tells you, oh, man, we really need interior defensive line. But you look at who's left, and you're sitting there with Darren Harmon from Oregon, who I like, but at 13, I'm not too sure. TJ Sanders, Walter Nolan, those kind of names. So then I go exactly where you guys went, corner, which is another big position I need. Malachi Starks, I think, is the safe, in case of emergency, let's just go with Malachi Starks, But you look at corner, the one reservation I have about Barron, I think he's a fantastic player, but I kind of think he's more of a nickel corner. And when you look at, where we put Ramsey, and then we also have Cater Kohu, I'm not sure that Barron is going to be used to his strengths in year one, at least. So whereas somebody like Siobhan Revel, who is coming off a torn ACL.
Well, that's a Chris Greer pick.
A beast. I know, but just an absolute beast on the outside. A willing tackler. And no matter what happens at 13, I really have no preference on who you guys end up selecting. But no matter what, I just hope it is somebody who brings a little attitude to the locker room. Whether that be a Tyler Warren, Siobhan Revel, you name it.
You know what's going to happen is that this year we're going to go nuts trying to figure out who it is. And it's going to be the guy that everybody's been mocking to us since day one, Malachi Starks.
Yeah.
And then we're all going to be like, man, we just did all this work and all this guesswork, and it was just the guy that everybody thought it was the whole time. I do want to say, sorry, Keith, to this point here, yeah, man, but not if your corner is as bad as Storm Duck. Like, there's a talent drop off there. It's not true for all. We can't we can't have a top 3 defensive line and take guys from the UFL and put them at corner and still be fine. Like,
yeah, if Kenneth Grant was here, that probably would have been my pick, if I'm being honest, or my choice.
Yes.
Player.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. I think if the board shakes out like this and a team like potentially the Pittsburgh Steelers is calling us to say, hey, we want Jackson Dart, we are listening. We're listening hard. This is a trade back. This is a position where I would potentially be trying to trade back, get some more picks. But if we're staying put, I'm good with Jahdae Barron here, Anthony.
Yeah, it's one last thing to that point, especially if they like Siobhan Ravel from the corner at East Carolina, or if they like Walter Nolan, defensive tackle at Ole Miss. I mean, you're just that's a perfect way to trade back, and one of those guys is almost guaranteed to be there at 21. So I'm okay with Barron here. If we stick at 13 and the board falls this way, I would say Barron is.
All right, so I guess, and I'm not super enthusiastic about this either. I wanted a guard, you guys know that, but with the 13th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, Miami Dolphins select Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas.
You got to talk to Greer about the guard thing, man. You got to get on the phone, have a conversation.
Hey, I'll beat his ear about it.
Yep. Now, I can tell you this will probably be a real short conversation as the Colts.
That's an easy one.
I mean, I'm on the podium tapping Goodell on the shoulder, like, hurry up, announce Barron. Let's go, Tyler Warren. Right.
Yeah, Josh, I don't know if you saw the notes I sent you because, there was a chance I was going to be on the show.
Tyler.
Yeah, Tyler Warren was listed 3 times. So, I'm with you. Run up to the podium.
This is it. This is definitely the pick.
So Tyler Warren is the pick for the Indianapolis Colts. That puts
knock over any old lady.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
That puts the Atlanta Falcons. On the clock. Now, the Falcons are a team that just need edge rushers, in my opinion. And I think the best one out there right now is Michael Williams. I don't know how you feel about it, Anthony. They couldn't rush the pass last year to save their lives.
Yeah, I agree that if edge rusher is an absolute need here, I think the Falcons also are prime candidate to trade back. Another spot here if the Steelers wanted to move up to 15, or if the Seahawks are. I've heard of there's rumblings that the Seahawks want to move up. There's rumblings that the Steelers could look to move up. There's always teams like the Eagles who like to move around a lot. We could see them moving up. But if we stick here, I've heard them tied to Mike Green a lot too. But I do think it's absolutely an edge rusher.
Okay. Well, I'm good with it. I'm actually good with Mike Green because I think he has better potential than any other edge rusher left on the board. So would you want to go Mike Green here for the Falcons?
I would say Mike Green is the pick here.
Okay, Mike Green for the
Everybody
Falcons.
Take note of who we're picking because I want $1 for every person I get right.
All right. The Arizona Cardinals are on the clock for Josh and Taylor.
Taylor, you want to start or you want me to?
You start because I have no idea.
Yeah. So for me, it really comes down to 3 positions, right? It comes down to edge rusher, defensive tackle, and wide receiver, right? As the Arizona Cardinals. And, James Pierce Jr. is an option here. Mikel Williams is still on the board. Shamar Stewart still on the board. And Matthew Golden and Tet are still on the board, right? So I think, there are plenty of options, right? I mean, I think James Pierce Jr., super explosive, wreaked havoc in the SEC for Tennessee last year. Super fast off the line, lightning quick type player, right? With the kind of reminds me a lot of his first step reminds me of Chops, right? I mean, he's that kind of good. And just he's got a good bag of tricks, right? But the fact that Mikel Williams is still here and Shamar Stewart are still here, who I think are slightly better than Pierce Jr., just my own preference. You really can't go wrong, right? But then I think an honest conversation needs to be had. Okay, Matthew Golden and Tet are still on the board. We need help at wide receiver. And Keith, can you go to interior defensive line? Because I want to see who's there, please, if you don't mind.
Interior
You're going to
offensive
have Derek
line.
Harmon, T.J. Sanders, Walter Nolan, and
Yeah.
Darius Alexander.
So I mean,
for the
Walter
Dolphins.
Nolan would be in certainly in the conversation here as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm not a big fan of James Pierce Jr.
Mhm.
I just got to throw that out there. He does time the snaps so perfectly,
Mhm.
and he's arguably the most explosive person in this draft. But I don't see that working at the next level where he can just like time that perfectly and finesse his way around. There's some edges I do like that are still out here. Donovan Izaraku is a name that he has a great season of production this past season. Still a little ways to go, but man, the production's there. Then you got, like you said, Shamar Stewart, Nick Scorton.
Mhm.
Any of those names at all?
Yeah, I mean, Shamar Stewart is one of my favorite players in this entire draft. So, I think a genuine conversation needs to be had about the wide receiver position. But again,
Yeah.
I'm a offensive and defensive line kind of guy. So it's hard not to shine a little bit into these decisions, right? But yeah, I mean, Shamar Stewart for this team would be incredible.
Or Tyler Booker, interior offensive line.
Yeah. True. I think it, Murray's ability to scramble and his propensity to scramble kind of reduces the importance when I'm sure there'll be a decent one or two in the second round that they could choose. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I say go edge rusher. I am good with whichever one you want to.
You pick one.
With.
I'm good with either of them, honestly. I think they both have both have really good bags of tricks, and they both offer something different, right? I think Shamar Stewart, for me, I have ranked above Mykal Williams by a slight margin. But it's up to you.
I'll go Shamar Stewart.
You want Shamar Stewart? All right.
All right. Shamar Stewart to the Arizona Cardinals. That brings the Bengals up, and this pick has to be defense, I think, Anthony. What they did to Joe Burrow last year, in Joe Burrow having a career year, and then the defense just consistently leaving them out to dry. I think this needs to be a defensive pick. I don't know how you feel about it, Anthony.
Yeah, 100%. I think their whole draft is probably going to be defense if I had to take a guess. I mean, one of the worst defenses in the league here. I had guys on here like Mykal Williams and Stewart who just went off the board. Jihad would be a really good pick here too.
Yeah.
With Malachi Stark still sitting there, man, I got to wonder if that's really kind of popping out to them though.
I think Malachi Starks pops out to them. Personally, I would go Jihad Campbell for them. I think he adds a layer of toughness they lacked last year and a layer of athleticism. And, with an offense like they have, they can afford to maybe wait on, his injury coming back. I don't think that dissuades them at all. So I would go Jihad. If I'm the Bengals, I'm going Jihad Campbell here.
I'm okay with that pick. I really like Jihad. I mean, if Miami took him at 13, I wouldn't be mad about it either.
True.
So if they could grab him at 17, I think that's a good pick for them.
I didn't hear this, Hammer. Hang on a sec.
Well, that's still true too, though.
Yeah. Please smash that like button.
Absolutely. I didn't hear this. Burrow says he's retiring to become a hair model, Macaulay Culkin body double. Didn't hear that, but I wouldn't disbelieve it, honestly. And I think Bengals will go D most of the draft too. Nate. I think that's absolutely has to be their play. So we're going to go with Jihad Campbell here for the Cincinnati Bengals. That puts the Seattle Seahawks on the clock.
Yeah, before we jump to them, I know there's a lot of Dolphins conversation going on in the chat here because obviously it's a Dolphins podcast and we have Dolphins fans in the chat, so I would like to just address some of those real quick. So Hammer is on par with us trading back.
For sure.
Nate Mandu, not so much so. I like to see the back and forth there. He says, we need a premium pick in the first and trading back doesn't guarantee that, so that's a good point of view there. Also, we talked with Dougley about this here. Greer's tendencies line up with our needs, but he likes skill positions over the trenches, which we've seen time and time again. Unfortunately,
sad but true.
Yeah. So
We
he
are
very
a-
wants Gray Zabel, which we all love in the second round.
very
Yeah.
much so he will
If
not be there for
He
us.
won't be
but
there.
yes. Yeah, I think Gray Zabel might be a first rounder.
Looks like
Yeah.
it.
He's certainly trending in that direction.
Yep. All right, for the Seahawks,
Tyler
Taylor.
Booker.
that was it's between him and Tet, in my opinion, because
Okay.
they lost Lockett, they lost Metcalf, or we lost Lockett and Metcalf. They do have Cup, who okay, cool. They do have Jackson Smith and Jigba, cool. Pairing a Golden, who I cannot believe is still on the board, and Tet McMillan with that team makes a pretty formidable wide receiver. But I'm also James Booker or what's his name? Donovan Jackson? Is that his name, or am I making that up?
Yeah, Donovan Jackson, the guard out of Ohio State.
Yep.
Yep.
So, what are your thoughts?
Something I do want to point out, we don't have to have a big conversation about it. It could just be a coincidence. It is interesting to me that Travis Hunter went and McMillan went as well, right? I think he went to Carolina.
No, McMillan's still here.
McMillan's still here. Yeah, so McMillan and Golden still both on the board.
Yeah,
as
that's what I
well.
just said.
Yeah. Sorry, I did not hear you. I
went on a whole rant about wide
fantasizing.
receivers.
I know. I was fantasizing about Tyler Booker playing in this offense.
Fuck's sake, you're fired. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, you know what? I think you did a fantastic job there, Josh.
How would you
Being,
know?
Of course, the Seahawks GM, and you basically pulled the draft day trades from the movie Draft Day, because you went and got a third-round pick, got Sam Darnold, basically has the same quarterback play, and then you went ahead and traded a second to get rid of DK Metcalf. So great job there, Josh.
Thank you.
Solid
choices.
Yeah, man, I think it's interior offensive line. I'm up for Donovan Jackson or Tyler Booker here.
All right. Well, man, that's a tough choice then, right? Who do you like better, right? I think Jackson is
both are slow.
Huh?
Both are slow.
Both are slow.
They're
Yeah,
slower players.
They really are, but Jackson's got this nasty mean streak that I love in interior lineman, right? And I'm not saying Tyler Booker is a pushover by any
Booker
stretch.
does. Booker said at the combine, and I'm paraphrasing here, his favorite part of football is watching the defender he's going against, love for the game drain from his eyes.
All right, Tyler Booker, pick at 18. There you go.
All right, Tyler Booker for the Seahawks.
Love it.
For the Bucks, I think. What are you thinking here, Anthony?
Edge rusher, 1,000%.
Jahad Campbell would have been a perfect pick for this team.
Yeah, would have. I think Michael Williams is the pick here, Anthony.
Yeah, and looking at Taylor's board, he doesn't have Michael very high. I don't know enough about some of these prospects to say otherwise, but
I'm an outlier on that, by the way. A lot of people have him in the first round.
Cool. So yeah, I think it's between Michael and James Pierce. Flip a coin.
I tend to agree with Taylor on James Pierce. I think James Pierce, too light. He's going to get pushed around the NFL. I think Michael Williams is a better prospect.
With character concerns too. So I guess if you're comparing the two, that you may want to go with Michael there, who has some injury concerns. But listen, I don't think Tampa can leave this first round without taking an edge rusher.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Michael Williams is going to be the pick here. Broncos.
Yeah, this is a running back or a wide receiver. That is super simple, right? And I think
who you like, Hampton or Golden? Because that's really the options.
I mean, really, right? I mean,
or at Buka. So you got three, but
no, there's two.
ones.
It's two options. It's Golden,
so it's Golden
or it's Hampton, right? And for them, I want to lean towards Omarion Hampton, right, if I'm pronouncing his first name right, out of UNC. But I don't know, man. The fact that Golden is still on the board is crazy to me, right?
Yeah, definitely is. I really love both players here.
I mean, I never thought I'd see the day where there was a better wide receiver on the board, and I was seriously considering taking a slight step down running back. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I personally, I think it's between the wide receivers. I know running back, is a need for them, right? Especially in Sean Payton's offense, but
You can get one in the second, or
right?
even
And with
third.
Golden with Golden or Tet sitting there staring at you in the face. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think you're golden. I really
Yeah.
do.
Me too.
All right, Matthew Golden to the Denver Broncos. That's such a great pick for them if he's available.
Really.
It sure
That's
is.
unbelievable pick for them. Now for the Steelers, look, Anthony, I'm going to throw this out there. I think that they go Jackson Dart here. I think this is the perfect spot for Jackson Dart to go off the board. The Steelers are still rolling with Mason Rudolph
Yikes.
as their starting quarterback. As of right now, Aaron Rodgers hasn't signed anywhere yet. I saw a thing yesterday on Reddit saying that Aaron Rodgers signed with them. April Fools, he did not. So I like Jackson Dart here for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I think this is definitely a good landing spot for Jackson Dart, but I also think it's a great landing spot for Omarion Hampton. They have Jalen Warren. But listen, I mean, Najee Harris is the last running back they took in the first round. It didn't really work out too well for them. I guess the question is whether or not they think Jackson Dart's better than Mason Rudolph. I mean, this team has kept Mason Rudolph around for a while. I know he went to Tennessee for a cup of tea for a little bit, but then they bring him right back to be their only quarterback on the roster. They let Kenny Pickett. They trade Kenny Pickett over to the Browns, or let him walk to the Browns. I forget what the situation was there.
Yeah.
Anthony, hold on. They got Skylar Thompson.
No, they don't.
Hey,
Nobody cares. Nobody
That's
cares
it.
about that.
That's it. They're done. Future Hall of Famer.
Listen, they're set at wide receiver. I think they've set this team up for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, they traded for DK Metcalf. They got George Pickens there. They got Freiermuth. They need a running back in a desperate way. I could realistically see this being Omarion Hampton, and then just punting quarterback to the second round. Jackson Dart, I hear is a first rounder, and maybe he will get pushed up the board because of the lack of quarterback talent in this draft. And we already think Tyler Shuck is going to get pushed up the board for the same reasons. I do think it's very hard for them to pass on Hampton here, though.
You know what? I like the case that you made for them. My only problem is, if any of us know what's going through Aaron Rodgers' head right now, you're lying. Like, if any of us say we know, we don't know. We don't know what Aaron Rodgers is thinking. But I think ultimately you're probably right. Aaron Rodgers comes and plays with the Pittsburgh Steelers this season, which means Omarion Hampton should be the pick. I agree with you, Anthony. I think we should go with Omarion Hampton.
I know I have no skin in this specific pick, but I could not disagree more. I don't think you risk it with Aaron Rodgers. And when he was on the field, look at what he did. He did absolutely jack shit. So I think you can't risk going in with Piggly Wiggly's employee of the month and Skylar Thompson and and Rudolph at quarterback. You have to take Dart if I was picking here, that would be my pick. I'm not. Yeah. I'm sorry. I couldn't keep it shut for too long, fellas. You know me. There, I'm done. I'm good for another 5 picks.
Also, Rodgers, I think, taking the Dolphins fan out of it, did not play well with the Jets. He didn't play like Peyton Manning level at the end of his career bad. There's still something in the tank as a player for Aaron Rodgers. But still, even considering if he's a good quarterback and can lead the Steelers to a playoff win or a run, he's still in his 40s. Like, he's not the 5-year plan. So.
No, but the Steelers have typically punted on quarterback until the next year, and what shakes loose next season.
I mean, the last 4 years they've punted.
Yeah, I mean, they took Kenny Pickett, and Kenny Pickett didn't work out, and they just kind of, hey, Russell Wilson's available. Let's go get him and sign him for $2 million and see what he can do for us. He leads into the playoffs.
I mean, to Josh's point, is there a very good chance they take Jackson Dart here? Yes, right? Yeah. They're probably greater than 50% chance. It's probably the highest percentile of all the picks that they have options here. But would I be surprised if they say, no, I'll take the running back, or I'll take the tight end, or I'll take Malachi Starks because they just take the best talent that's on the board? No, I wouldn't be surprised by that either. For the sake of this, I say go with Dart. That's the expected outcome here.
Okay.
But
Jackson Dart is the pick for the Steelers then.
I don't think it's set in stone. Just to say that.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Anthony.
Well, not that I'm trying to rush this, though, but I think very similarly to the Colts, this is probably the most boring place to select a pick because it's been the same person since the beginning, right?
Really?
I genuinely think this is where Colson Loveland gets drafted. I think this is where he belongs. This is what, Justin Herbert's the entire offense needed a field stretcher at tight end, right? And what is Loveland? He is a giant wide receiver that plays tight end, right? I mean, that's what he is. I've seen mocks for months that it's just a plug and play and keep moving. You know what I mean? You can make
I don't hate it.
Right. You can say, well, Ted McMillan's still there. That wasn't supposed to happen. You can say they need defensive tackle help. I just think what's on the board. I mean, maybe Ted McMillan is a better rated prospect, but man, the having a separator at the tight end position that is a difference maker, who I believe he's a difference maker. I don't think he's a top 5 tight end, right? But he's a difference maker at the tight end position, changes an offense.
So I'm not sure there's a team that the draft's fallen better for them than the Chargers, considering the way this went. Because on my list of what would be the best thing for the Chargers, Amarian Hampton, Colston Loveland, or the top wide receiver available. And you have Ted McMillan sitting right there.
You have
what
all three.
a embarrassment of riches right here. So I don't hate the Loveland pick, but man, Amarian Hampton still being there, I didn't think he would get past the Steelers. Yeah. And Ted McMillan being there as well.
And here's my counter to both of those positions. Those positions are deep. Running back is deep. Wide receiver is deep. Tight end after Loveland, it's nothing, in my opinion.
Yeah, you do get Mason Taylor and Arroyo and Harold Fannin.
Sure. If you say so.
In the second and third.
If you say so, right? But I mean, you're telling me that they're anywhere close to Loveland? They're not, right? But you go ahead, Keith. Go to the wide receivers real quick, just for shits and giggles. And we're going to do the same thing with the running backs really quick, right? So you have Ibuka, you have Luther Burden, you have Illuminor, you got Trey Harris, you got Betch. I mean, you got Higgins, you got there's a plethora, to use a big giant word of the day, of talent at wide receiver. You have Hampton, Travion Henderson. You got both Ohio State running backs for that matter. You have Scatabo still available. You have Giddens from K-State. I mean, there's just, but you go to tight end and that's it. Because I'm sorry.
Pure volume. While the wide receiver position, I would argue it's deep, but it's also because of the wide receiver position that there will be good players there. Yeah, man, I don't hate the Loveland pick. I was just suggesting, hey, we do have Ted McMillan here. We do have Amarian Hampton. I think it is a worthy conversation.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm fine with Loveland here.
Okay. All right. So Colston Loveland is the pick to the Los Angeles Chargers.
I'll tell you, the Vikings, depending on what Green Bay does, is about to do a backflip.
So as far as the Packers go, Anthony, there's a player that I've had mocked to them for a while now. I think he's perfect for them. It's Nick Emmanwori. I think he fits what the Packers want to do defensively. He fits that Green Bay, cold weather, frozen tundra mentality. I think Emmanwori is a perfect pick for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I was going to say they run to the podium with the Malachi Starks pick, but yeah, sure, Emmanwori too. I mean, I think it's 1A, 1B there. This is an embarrassment of riches, similar to Josh saying, the Vikings are probably pretty happy. I think the Packers are really happy. Ted McMillan is still there if they want to take another shot on a wide receiver because their guys have been glass cannons who are mostly glass. I think they're taking a look at Revel Jr., the corner there, who I think could end up being a first-round pick after all is said and done. They desperately need a corner. But yeah, I think, to have Tet there, to have both safeties there to choose from, to have first-round potential corners there, it's just crazy how the draft played out for the Packers. But Nick Emmanwori would be a really solid selection there.
Should you go with Emmanwori here, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, this dude's what? He's 6'3", ran a what? I mean, he's so crazy.
Yeah, he's 6'3", he ran a 4.38 or a 4.42 or something. I mean, something ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
The athleticism there is nuts. Yeah.
Nick Emmanwori to the Packers.
And I think I'm not going to speak for you, Taylor. So obviously there is a conversation to be had, but I think they are running for Malachi Starks.
I do think there's a conversation to be had, mainly because
Hit me.
I did have him. Emma Warrior, I think, is my. I really want him to go to the Vikings. I think that is a perfect fit as well. So that's hilarious.
So can you undo the pick, please?
Can you go ahead and undo that?
Yeah, and just take Malachi
Starks
because nobody cares about Green Bay.
I do like that fit for the Vikings as well.
Yeah.
But also, man, wide receiver, Ted McMillan. I know they got Justin Jefferson. I know they got Addison. But this is one of those situations where the talent that's sitting there and you're just going, okay, sure, I'll take this player.
I don't know. This is between Revel or Starks for them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think to your point, they have Pro Bowl level players at their wide receiver and at their wide receiver one position. You can argue that a borderline Pro Bowler potential in wide receiver two, you don't take that. In my opinion, you can have the discussion about Tet, but I just don't see how a team could do that, right?
When the Vikings, I think, can because they kind of seem set across the board. But that
not at cornerback and safety, they don't.
Yeah, I was going to say at safety in particular, you could use for one Harrison Smith's heir apparent 100%, or at least somebody to be in that room and learn from him and possibly, take that other center field position, which I think Malachi Starks will crush as well.
Yeah,
as that Harrison Smith role. So I'm not upset with Starks either. But
do you think there's a conversation between Starks and Revel, or do you think Starks is head and shoulders above Revel?
For this team, I think it's Starks.
Yeah, all right.
Or,
Starks is
like
the
I
pick.
was saying, Mac.
All right, Malachi Starks to the Vikings.
And the fact that they're getting a player that I would have been thrilled with at 13 is awesome for them.
All right, so now we're on to the Texans here, Anthony.
Yeah. This is easy.
What's that?
This is easy.
Tell me.
They're running up with Josh Simmons on that card, bro. I mean, they got Cam Robinson and Trent Brown starting at tackle.
Yeah.
This is a top 5 talent that falls all the way to 25. I don't think if this happened, the Houston Texans draft room would be a freaking party.
I
mean,
agree.
Listen, I had Gray Zabel and Connerly Jr. as the guys I would put here, but because I didn't expect Josh Simmons to fall this far. So if he did, I absolutely think that this would be the fastest pick made in round 1.
Yeah, I agree. They lost Laramie Tunsil this offseason. They're light on the offensive line. They need a guy like Josh Simmons. Josh Simmons is the pick.
Interestingly, I see like wide receiver on their needs list, and they picked up Christian Kirk. They got Nico Collins. They got Tank Dell. I thought that was an interesting assessment there by both NFL Network and ESPN. Both have wide receiver on the needs list. So interesting.
Yeah, I think just because Tank Dell went down with that injury late in the season last year, he's probably not going to be back till at least midway through.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why they put him up there as a need.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there's probably serious conversations there around Tet McMillan if he's still there, and around Amari and Hampton if he's still there. They got Joe Mixon, but I mean, he's not getting any younger. But I absolutely think Josh Simmons is the pick.
Yeah, I agree. So we're on to the LA Rams.
Taylor, you want to kick us off, or you want me to?
I have Revel or Carson Schlesinger, the linebacker from UCLA, as 2 of my top picks. Again, did not expect. I don't mean to keep saying it, but Ted McMillan is here, and I feel like every time until he's picked, it should be like, well, should we do it?
Well, you know what's going to happen. He's going to go to Washington or Kansas City, right? That's just our luck. And they're going to get a Pro Bowl wide receiver for no reason.
I know we're running low on time. I just want to quickly kind of go through the McMillan thing. He's not a perfect prospect either. While I think he's going to be an easy day 1 pick, he'll be picked before this. It's not like he was top 5, perfect prospect, and he somehow fell out like he has right here. So this isn't the craziest thing in the world to me.
Not at all. Can you go to linebacker, Keith? Because I think that's really where they go, right? And I think Barrett Carter from Clemson is also a linebacker option here.
Demetrius Knight Jr. from South Carolina.
I think Schlesinger has to be the pick, but I think I think an inside linebacker is the discussion, right? It's just who, Demetrius Knight or Schlesinger. He's on my man crush of the off season, right? He's kind of one of my studs. I love the way he plays football. Schlesinger would be my choice here for LA. And also don't forget Revel's still available at cornerback, and they need cornerback help too. Right. So
I don't think we have time for trades, but this would be where I'm like, hey, anybody want to trade up to get T-Mac right now? And then the Rams will take whoever's left at the end of the first.
Yeah. So
I
you
know
have
I'm
a
sorry, go ahead, Josh.
No, go ahead.
I know I'm not part of your guys' team here, but there's a huge conversation out there about how the Rams just don't invest in the linebacker position. So I agree with Taylor. Like, more likely option is they trade out of this spot.
Yeah. I mean, you look. They have a need at cornerback, and they have a need at linebacker. You look at the players that are available for each position. Schlesinger would be my pick, but there are two better prospects available at the cornerback position that are ranked higher. It's just a matter of who you want, right? And I will leave the decision up to you.
I'll go Siobhan Revel here.
Okay.
He's just too high up on my board. Too great of a tackler.
Okay. So Siobhan Revel to the Rams.
Perfect.
So the Ravens, I think this is where Ted McMillan's ball ends here, Anthony. You know, the Ravens are a team that they've got.
Of course, they get him.
They've got a lot of talent all over the place. One thing they've lacked since Lamar Jackson's come into the league has been a number one alpha wide receiver. And I think Ted McMillan would be perfect for them.
Yeah, I mean, they did pick up DeAndre Hopkins this offseason. They got Zay Flowers. They got Rashad Bateman, who has seemingly fallen out of favor very quickly over there. So I could definitely see Tet being the pick. If they decided to go a different route, I think it's the trenches. That's just a Ravens move right there.
Yeah.
So you're looking at Walter Nolan or Derek Harmon on defense, Gray Zabel on offense for sure. But if Tet's there, I think it would be hard to pass up. I would say Tet McMillan would be a Raven here.
All right. Tet McMillan to the Ravens. On the clock is the Lions.
I mean, edge rusher for me, right?
Yeah,
and I
edge
think
rusher and pen, crayon, whatever you want to say.
Yep, I think Pierce Jr. is the pick here, in my opinion. I mean, can you go to edge? Can you go to edge and just see who's available? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Scorton, Izaraku, Tiamalo, Mikel Williams,
Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State, right? I think he is like a perfect Man Campbell kind of player, right? I don't know. I kind of like that pick better than James Pierce. I just find it hard that James Pierce is still on the board and we're talking about taking Jack Sawyer. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. It has to, in my opinion, it's definitely an edge to your point. So I think personally it's between Pierce Jr. and Jack Sawyer. I think Pierce has the higher ceiling. Jack Sawyer has the higher floor, right?
Yeah.
So
I have Izaraku as the next guy up for me. Unfortunately, I have Pierce and Sawyer's very low compared to Izaraku. So if you want to go Pierce Jr., I think he's the one I feel better about out of the two. But
you guys
I also think Izaraku fits as well in that Campbell system. I really do.
He really does. He really does. Okay. That's good. Let's go with that. Izaraku.
Okay.
Boy, what a tumble for Pierce. Holy crap.
Yeah. This is pretty crazy.
Maybe the Eagles will get James Pierce. Of course he will. Never mind.
So what do you think about here for the Commanders here, Anthony?
Yeah, so I have corner, wide receiver, offensive line, edge, and potentially running back on the list of needs for them. Depends how you feel about Brian Robinson Jr. I think Austin Eckler's is kind of a stopgap, but I wouldn't even mention it if Omarion Hampton wasn't there right now, sitting on the board. That's got to be super tempting. If we look at corners, Siobhan Revel just got taken 3 picks before, so they're probably pretty bummed about that. Wide receiver, Tet McMillan just went, so it's like, dang, I'm sure they were hoping, oh man, come on, but I do think there's, I think Gray Zabel's in serious contention here. You got to protect Jaden Daniel. They traded for Laramie Tunsil. They've shown that they want to get that offensive line shored up. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them continue to do that here in the first round, even though I do think wide receiver is a huge need and Luther Burden is sitting there. So I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I think Edge is probably their biggest need.
Hmm.
And James Pierce, I think, has fallen far enough. I think the Commanders are going to,
Okay.
run to the podium to snap him up.
Yep. They did lose Fowler Jr. 10.5 sacks last year.
Mhm.
So that does make sense. Yep.
So you go with James Pierce here, Anthony?
Yeah, well, they have a surprising number of needs for a team picking at 29.
Yeah, well, I think they overplayed their talent
Dan,
level a lot last year.
Dan Quinn, at a boy, right? Like, geez.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
they
kidding.
might come crashing back down to earth next season. But for now, I think James Pierce is the pick. So we're gonna go with James Pierce. The Bills are on the clock.
Josh,
Taylor, you're
I made
up.
the final call on these last two. I want you to take this one, man.
All right, can you go to cornerback for me, please? Because that is, for me, they're kind of Achilles heel right now. And the fact
is
that
one of the reasons why.
Yeah, and the fact that Harrison is still available, it's between him. For me, it's between Maxwell Harrison from Kentucky or defensive tackle, right? So if you could go to the D tackles for me, please. I think that's probably where I'm leaning. And the fact that Walter Nolan is still here, and Derek Harmon is still here, I feel like I'm leaning towards Walter Nolan Buffalo Bills pairing, which makes me nauseous as a Dolphins fan. But I'd love to hear your take.
Nolan, I do like. I have Harmon rated a little bit higher, but either player I think fits very well. Hairston as well is somebody who is blazing fast. I think he had the 4.240.
Yep,
That the
he's
combine
lean,
everybody was talking
athletic.
about.
He's like speed incarnate, right?
If Siobhan Revel's here, they are running to the
for
podium.
sure.
They're good to go. Like that, or somehow, some way, Barron falls this far, they'd be running. Even considering Barron's more of a nickel corner. So, yeah, man, I'm good with whoever you end up going.
Walter Nolan.
It's interesting.
Walter
I'll say
Nolan.
that.
Yeah.
Walter Nolan.
I'm just
I
really do like him. I do.
That pick would make me so mad if he's available for the Bills. All right, our last pick of the first round here, Anthony, is the Kansas City Chiefs.
I want to be cheeky and take somebody like Hampton or Burden or something like that, but I think their immediate reaction is going to be what happened to them at the Super Bowl can't happen again. They trade away Joe Thuney this offseason. I think Gray Zabel right here, without a doubt, if he's there, that's their pick.
I could not possibly agree with you more here, Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Gray Zabel is absolutely the pick.
Isn't that disgusting how they just keep getting rock star talent?
Yeah.
It's infuriating.
Yeah. All right. So the last pick of the first round is the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, Omari and Hampton. No, I'm kidding.
Who's
If
the
this were last year, I
No,
would say
Michael
yep.
Williams. Best Georgia player.
Can you scroll all the way down to whoever the last player available is? That's who I think the Eagles. I'm kidding. Don't really do
It's
it.
gonna take forever to get there.
All right. Let's talk about it. What do you think?
That is Michael Williams. I know I said it as a joke, but it fits. Georgia player that needs some edge help. He'll help in the run game as well, at the very least. Has elite traits.
I think he's gone a while ago, dude.
Yeah, he's been gone.
Was he?
Yeah.
God, damn. Yep, I see him here. Who's left at edge?
Jack Sawyer, Princely.
That dude's
Umar
name
Nealon.
is Princely. What better? The fresh Princely of Bel Air. Come on.
Oh God.
That's the wrong
And-
town, but he was
and
from
West
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Jokes
born and
write
raised.
themselves.
Yeah. I'm sure he
Not
spent
sure you
most of
like
his
your-
time on the playground. I like cornerback here. I like edge rusher here. I like Sawyer, right? Go to hit up the cornerbacks. My guy from Kentucky's still here. There we go. Yeah. Maxwell Harrison. I'm a huge fan of him. Guard Gray Zabel was going to be my bang the table pick for them. Right. But yeah, I mean, I think, and they need safety. Who's available for safety? I don't think anyone worth the 32nd pick.
Donovan Jackson may or may not be available right now.
Donovan Jackson's available.
Okay. I think it's between Donovan Jackson or Hairston, like you were saying.
All right, who do you like better between the two? Well, they also need D-line.
Eagles
And
building-
the fact that Harmon is still there is pretty cool too for them.
Ooh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is a good pick for the Eagles. They're gonna find some way to find a great player. I kind of like Harmon here, man. I like that fit.
Secretly, I was like, I don't want to give them Harmon, but I feel like that's who they would pick. So
Yeah,
that's who I would pick as them personally.
Okay. Don't worry, they'll find a way to fix their problems in the second and third round too.
Yeah, they always do. All right, Harmon it is.
Okay, even though he's not from Georgia, Derek Harmon is going to the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's it. That's I don't know. That's loading something. It's probably loading the results.
There it is.
So there's the results. Those are the results of our first round mock draft. We kind of tag teamed it, as we said. Anthony and I, and then Josh and Taylor did their picks. I don't know. This was a lot of fun, guys.
This was so much fun.
Yeah.
I had such a blast doing this. And I actually really like how the board fell for a lot of the teams, right? I don't think that this is insanely crazy or that we didn't put the team's best interests at heart with a lot of these picks, right? I really do think that. I mean, this is a pretty. I want to take a picture of this. I want to save this.
I was literally just thinking that for like anybody coming in after the fact and being like, oh, they didn't think serious. Like I thought so seriously about every single one of those selections. Like even our rivals, like I wouldn't give the Jets Will Campbell if I wasn't thinking seriously for the Jets. I would have let him fall to Miami.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, so guys, we're at the 151 mark right now, so we're getting up to it. I'm gonna go into final thoughts here. So Josh, any final thoughts?
No, man. Just like we said, had a blast. This was a lot of research that I don't want to speak for you guys, but I know what our group thread looked like, and a lot of research put into this. Really, really fun exercise, and the draft is coming quick, and then comes the slow segments of the off season. So we got a lot of great content coming. Stay with us, like and subscribe, and really appreciate y'all for joining live in the chat. And
absolutely. Yeah, thank you to Hammer. Thank you to Nate Mandu for joining us in the chat.
Matt was back too at the beginning.
Matt, yeah. We love your contributions. Absolutely. Taylor, any final thoughts?
Nothing. Just very excited for the next few weeks, especially as we get a little away from the mock drafts of it all and get more Dolphin centric and talking prospects.
Absolutely. We are definitely going to be getting more, this is a Dolphin show ultimately, so we are going to get more into the Dolphins and their draft needs starting next week. So stay tuned for that. Anthony, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about who the Dolphins select here at 13. We're going to talk way more about it next week, and I kind of can't wait. We've been talking about it for weeks, but I can't get enough of it. It's just there's so many ways that this draft could go, and more information we get, the more our opinions alter. And yeah, I would love to see anybody watching, if you've done a mock, just put the link in the comments, man. I would love to see what you guys have come up with, because the more of these I could see, the more information I got up in this little noggin.
Absolutely. So again, guys, like, subscribe, leave some comments, tell us who you have the Dolphins taking with the 13th pick in the NFL draft, and we will see you next week with more stellar content from all of us next Wednesday at 7. Have a good night.